That is wronger than a wrong thing. Hello Jeep fanciers, it's Greendot 319. How we all doing? Right, today I've got a real treat for you. It's something some of you have been asking for a while. It's rebuilding one of these things. Yes, the Carter Carburetor off the Jeep, okay? Now this isn't actually a real one. This is the Joe's Motorpool which we had on there for a little while. So we're going to be rebuilding the guts of this one here, which is a World War II one, a real one, which I've been cleaning up and getting ready for this. I've got a whole load of these things, so I've been working my way through them. So this is what we're going to have a look at, okay? Now, first things first, if you don't understand how the WO Carburetor works, or carburetors in general, I've got a little video. If you click up here, open this in a new window, keep this video running, have a look at that. It explains how this carburetor works. We go through it, all the different systems in it and things like that, and it gives you a whole good understanding of what we're looking at here, because without that you can't really rebuild it. If you don't know what it is and how it works, you know, it makes rebuilding it a hell of a lot more difficult, okay? So have a look at that. Right, now you come back to here, you understand how the carburetor works. Perfect. Okay, what we're going to do to rebuild this little thing is we're going to use the Carter instructions. Okay, these are from 42, revised in June 54, okay? Because I found the best way to rebuild these a lot of the time is to use the original manuals, because they knew what they were doing. There are mistakes in them. You find some of the World War II manuals do have some pretty bad mistakes in them. Actually, hold on, look at this. You can see this is out of a real Carter rebuild kit, because there's the shadow of where the gasket sat on it for 70 years, well, 60 years or whatever. That's pretty cool. Anyway, getting sidetracked there. Yeah, there's mistakes in these, and there is a mistake in this one as well, but it's not that important a mistake, but there is still a mistake in it, but we'll look at that. But yeah, we're going to rebuild it using this. So most important thing about rebuilding carburetors to start off with, looking at it from a big viewpoint, okay, is, it says it here. This says motor tune-up, but forget that. Be accurate, okay? Carburetors, these things, it's a really simple little thing, actually. It's quite clever, but it's still simple, okay? And because it's simple, that means if something isn't done accurately, it's not going to work at all, okay? If you think about your modern car, it's got an electronic control unit which controls the fuel and everything like that, right? If one of the sensors in it is wrong and it starts to be too rich or too lean or something like that, the computer will notice that and it'll adjust the mixture accordingly to try and fix it, okay? So you can have a sensor in it which is broken, but the computer will try and make up for that by changing the mixture, okay? But this thing, although it's simple, if something's not right on it, it just won't work properly at all. You know, if the float level is wrong, or the jets are clogged up, or, you know, there's something not quite right with it, the fuel pressure's too low, the thing just doesn't work properly. There's no clever computer to work that out and to adjust for it. The clever computer is you when you build it, okay? You are the computer that works this out. So the way to do it is the way they did it, is to follow instructions and follow them accurately, because when you do that, you can build something that works properly. A Carter carburetor which doesn't have a flat spot, or doesn't die, or isn't too rich or too lean. That's the way to do it, okay? And that's hopefully what we're going to do here. I've had pretty good success working on them, okay? So if we follow this, we should be all right. Right. So let's go through it then. Let's have a look. We have got a little bit of info on the front there. I'll just flash that up. Just pause this if you want to look at it properly and actually read through it. Right, let's go. Page 2. Okay, to reassemble. So let's forget about disassemble. Just one thing to start off with. This is the World War II carburetor, okay? It's got 8 patents on it here. This one's raised, okay? So that's how you know it's a World War II one. Some of the earlier ones before this one, the patent is missing there. So that's pretty cool. So there's a raised area, but there's no patent on it. And then the later ones, let me see if I've got one. No, I haven't got one to hand in here. Okay, the later ones, they got loads of patents. I can't remember exactly how many it is. I'll just flash up how many it is when I've looked it up. But it's got loads of patents here. So that's the later one. The later ones also, on a lot of the parts, they have a Carter C. So there's a C stamped in some places as well. And then the other thing is if you spin the base over, World War II one says 407 there, okay? And then the later ones, they could be like a 505 or something, or all sorts of different things. But those are just some of the easy ways to work out when you've got the World War II one, okay? To reassemble, assemble parts in Group A. Well, the great thing about that is it doesn't tell you what Group A is. There is nothing to explain what Group A, that says Figure 3, Figure 1 and Figure 2. So anyway, Group A, let's have a look at that. Install needle seat in bowl cover. Right, here is the bowl cover. Install needle seat and bowl cover, install bowl cover gasket, then put pin and spring into needle and install in seat, then install float and lever assembly. Oh, right. The first thing here is we're going to be putting in the little needle, which lives in here, little needle which allows the fuel to go into the float chamber, okay? So that's what they want us to do here. So you screw them in, and then they also want you to put the gasket on, which you shouldn't do to start off with, because when we screwed this in, we're going to set up the height of the float, okay? And you do that without the gasket. It says just move the gasket to the side, but that's not easy to do. So don't put the gasket on there yet, okay? So here's the seat. Here's the needle inside it with its little spring. It's got a little gasket there. He should just screw in. Now, I'd love to have the proper screwdrivers for this. There's proper tools for working one of these. You can see, look, that screwdriver's rubbish. Hopefully I've got the big one out here. I might have to go and stop this and go and get my proper screwdriver, actually. Right, we've got some tools. Now, how nice it would be to have the proper tools, because the problem with these is trying to get them out and in without nadgering them is really difficult. You've got to find the best screwdriver which will fit. You know, if you're just using normal tools, and put pressure through it without damaging anything. You can see when this was removed, there's just a little bit of a lip there where it's been pushed, a bit of force through it. It hasn't damaged it or anything like that. You know, the function's still fine, but without the correct tools, it's not easy to do. So, having said that, just checking him over, he all looks good still, no dirt in it. And there's no dirt in here, so we're just checking as we go. Let's just screw him in. So this is the first part going in there. There's a couple of different styles of these seats, and I'm not entirely sure how they go through, you know, which ones are the early ones and which are the late ones actually. When I took all these Carter carburetors apart, all 13 of them or however many it was, should have paid more attention to exactly what I was pulling out, which is a bit easy to say now, but you know, then I would know exactly what is correct internally for them, just like things like this. Not the jets and what have you, because they're all labelled, but these ones, it's slightly annoying. But anyway, right, let's just give them a tweak. There you go. So putting a lot, as I do it, just to make sure that it doesn't, you know, slip and damage it, I put a lot of force into it, so it's pushing it hard in, so it's less likely to it's less likely to damage it, move and damage it. Okay, so I put a lot of force into it. So there you go, he's seated in there. So install needle seat and bowl cover. Yeah, then put pin and spring into needle and install in seat. Okay, here's your little pin. I've checked this one already, and it seals pretty well. Okay, if you get a Carter rebuild kit, you get new seats and needles and everything like that. These are used ones. We're going to make this a used rebuilt carburetor and see how it goes. Okay, so I've done one on my Jeep, which was with a brand new rebuild kit, a brand new 1960s Carter rebuild kit. This one's going to be rebuilt using original used parts and see how that works out. Okay. So put pin and spring in. There's a little pin and spring. There you go. Doink. There and there. Then install float and lever assembly. Okay, sweet. So we got a whole load of floats. Let's pick a nice looking one. He looks pretty good. We need a little pin for it to ride on. In he goes. So that's installed like that. And then set the float level. Right, well, first things first, that float level is, my God, that is wronger than a wrong thing. I'm not entirely sure what's going on here, but this is totally wrong. Let's have a look. This is all installed in. That's all as far as it will go. And that needle's in there, and that's not too high. That's fine. If you look here, this tab, that tab is way out. Oh, there you go. It's better that way, right? That tab's only just raised. Look at this one. What was going on there? See, this is why carbs don't run properly, because they're so, you know, That would never be right in a million years, that one. That's going to need some bending, okay? So let's alter it a little bit. Set float level. Turn gasket around so gauge can be placed on machine surface of casting, okay? This is the machine surface of the casting, and this is the gauge. This is a Carter rebuild gauge, and this is the Joe's Motorpool one. It's 3/8 of an inch, but it's not. This is actually slightly incorrect, just because of the way that I think they've stamped it, and it's not exactly correct. But for us, it doesn't really matter. But we'll use the gauge like this. You put it on the machine surface there, and then the float should sit just on top of it. And it says, correct setting is 3/8 of an inch. Use tool T10980. There it is, T10980. Do not depress float lip against spring and needle, but let the float rest on its own weight, like it is now. Gauge should then be placed between the free end of the float, here, and machine surface of the bowl cover, here. Float should be set so it barely touches the gauge. Adjustment is obtained by bending the lip on the float, which is the lips down there, which contacts the pin needle. Do not bend on front of float in adjusting, as damage will result. So it means don't bend it here. It's on the lip here, not here. Okay. So let's put our gauge in and let's see how we're doing it. Now, when I'm checking it, I'm going to have to do it in line with me, which you guys won't be able to see very well, but I'll just do it like that. So what do you reckon? Sitting, just resting on top of the gauge there? Nice. Good work, Bubba. God only knows. So let's get on it. Let's take him off. So it's way too high at the moment, so that lip needs to come down a bit. So let's get my bending tool. There we go. And let's bend him down a bit. So you try and not hold the float when you do it, because then it'll just bend at the solder there and break. Try and hold it down here, which is easier said than done. Actually, it is easy. I was lying. It's easier than I remember that. Right, let's see. Okay, that's a good bend. We put a bit of a bend in there. It was miles out. I still think it's going to be too high at the moment, but let's put him on and see. One-handed again. Through. Okay, that's getting better. Really, what it should be is it'll look level when it's done. You can see it's raised up, so we'll know it's going to be still way too high here, right? Miles out. But it should be level, okay? We're getting there. Yeah, miles off. This needs a serious bend. Okay. What did they do to this? Why did somebody do this? It's bizarre. Okay. Still miles out. We're getting somewhere. Really slowly. Getting closer. Isn't this fun? All right, I'm feeling it now. I'm feeling better. It's getting close. Okay, so as I put it in, it's just lifting it just a touch. You can just see. So I've gone just a touch too far now. When I do it like that, obviously it's lifting it up a little bit, but if I come down here, it's doing it just a little bit too much. So we've gone too far, so we need to go back a little bit. I thought I'd make a big change there because we're spending ages going through it. You can see it's looking much lower now. So let's bend it down just a touch. The editing for this is going to be great. Man bends float for half an hour. Right. Okay, so it's just a touch above it now. It bends back up a little bit as I rotate it up to you, but it's just, if I turn it down for me, just above it, really. So it just needs a tiny adjustment now. It's just about contacting it. Maybe when I line it up with my eyesight and level for me, which you guys unfortunately can't see, you can hear it. It's just touching it. Perhaps it needs to raise just a tiny fraction. Really difficult to do. Right, that was fiddly. That's taken about half an hour to get that just right. Bubba had really gone to town on it. Now, I can't lift it up for you guys for it to be accurate, but when I put it on, can you just hear? Can you just hear that sort of it chattering away there? Let me bring it next to the mic. That sort of shows you that it's in the right place, because it should be just resting on here. So if, as your hand gently moves, it makes it chatter like that. If you've got, if your hands are shaking like this, obviously it's going to, even if it's set all the way up here, it's still going to chatter. But if you've got sort of semi-steady hands and it's chattering, that's just about right. That's just about set, okay? So that is it. That is the top cover assembled. Once we put this on, we'd have to take this all off again. Take the pin out, take the float off, and then put this on. And yeah, this reproduction gasket does not appear to fit particularly well. Great, okay, fantastic. So we might need to do some adjustments, cutting adjustments to the gasket here, because it seems to be misaligned. But once you put the gasket on, put this back on, that's the top cover done, okay? So that's awesome.